Shot callers are the leaders of their gangs. So Jimmy, specifically, had the keys to the yard that we were on for the whites. Now, there were 3 other key holders, right? The one for the black guys, one for the SAs, and one for the others. And the purpose of having a shot caller, just like having any other boss or gang leader, is to keep order on the yard. A shot caller's main job in prison is to regulate the drug traffic on their specific yard. Most people know this already, but drug use and drug dealing is as rampant in prison as it is on the streets. The most common drugs in prison are weed and meth, by far. I saw some heroin while I was down, but not a lot, and I saw almost no cocaine. And there's good reason for that. Heroin is difficult to smuggle in, and it's just difficult to make, a shooting rig out of. It's difficult to dilute down so you can smoke it. Meth is very easy. It's cheap, and 2 grams of it, just a small balloon, can keep an entire cell block high for a week. And weed, of course, marijuana is the other one, because obviously this is what most people want, and it's what people are smuggling in the most. And just like in the free world, drugs get smuggled into the prison the same way, a variety of methods. I've heard now there's prisons that have drones flying in and actually delivering the drugs to the windows of some of the cells, probably in Europe or these old penitentiaries that have, still bars on the windows, right? But for the most part, in America and at 2 Rivers, where I was at, it's one of 2 ways. It's brought in through the visiting room by the inmates' loved ones, or through the guards. And the guards are just as dirty and corruptible as the inmates who are serving time in the prisons that they're working at. A lot of these prisons, most of these prisons, are in very remote, rural areas where some of the only jobs are working at the prison. The cops are poor, they're working class. They know many of the people that they are guarding, right, from the outside world. And these guys are just one step away or one bad decision away from actually being inmates themselves. So it's really no surprise that they're so easy to corrupt. I mean, cell phones now in jail, they've got the latest iPhones. There's inmates in there with huge TikTok accounts with iPhone 14s making videos and shit. You're not smuggling a gigantic iPhone in through your ass. You're not keystering that in. You're not getting your girlfriend to smuggle that in through the visiting room, where there's cameras pointed at you from every direction. They're getting him brought in from a dirty guard. And I think the going rate when I was an inmate for a cell phone was about $1,000. That's what you had to pay a guard to bring a cell phone in for you. Tobacco, too, is a big one. Tobacco was outlawed, I know, first in the federal system, but then later on the states followed suit and made cigarettes illegal in prison, which, of course, is the dumbest thing you can do because now there's a thriving black market for cigarettes. So that's the other one. I think a drum of tobacco costs about $500 to have a corrections officer bring in for you. So, of course, the prices for drugs and cigarettes are fucking ridiculous. A tiny little stick of weed. And to describe what a stick is, when you're rolling a blunt or you're breaking down some weed to put into a bowl and the dust or the shake falls off of it and ends up on your old CD case or your coffee table, right? It's the stuff you would just scoop off and or vacuum up. That's the amount we're talking about. It's 0.1% of a gram at most, rolled up in a little stick of paper. That costs $7. That's how much drugs cost in prison. A line of meth, my God, that would cost you $20 easily, which is like the price of a whole gram on the streets. $20 would get you just a small line off that gram in prison. On my yard at 2 Rivers, the gangs who had the best drugs were the blacks with the weed and the whites and the SAs bringing in the meth. I don't know why exactly the black guys dominated the weed. I think it's because their baby mamas or their family members were just willing to take that chance and bring in balloons through the visiting room. So the visiting room is tricky. It takes balls to have somebody, take a penitentiary chance by smuggling you in a balloon while there's guards watching, while there's cameras overhead in the visiting room. I've heard of a trick where your baby mama or whoever will have a balloon on her, right? And she'll get it past the guards, and then she will go to the vending machine of the visiting room and will buy you, the inmate, a bag of chips. And then we'll open the chip bag and you'll both be sitting there at the visiting room, talking, catching up, sharing chips. And then very subtly, she will take that balloon and reach into the bag and drop it inside the chip bag. And then you'll keep eating a few more chips, and then you'll grab the balloon and you'll swallow it. That was one of the ways. And then, of course, you go shit it out, right? But, there's a ton of other little tricks. I wasn't involved in any of them, so I can't really speak to it. But, guys doing decades in prison have a lot of time to think of these little ways to get shit in. But I knew black dudes specifically who were getting high 3 times a day. It was unbelievable. It was like being in college or something. And for the meth, it was the white guys all the way. And I think that was because guys like Jimmy were able to corrupt a lot of the guards who were, these honky working class white dudes all the way out in Umatilla, Oregon. It's nothing but rednecks. So I think they just felt that kind of racial bond. You can call it racism if you want. But the white guys, the white inmates, were just able to get on a level with the guards. And there was this one CEO in particular that Jimmy had in his pocket. And he was bringing him in whatever Jimmy wanted, short of an actual prostitute. Whatever we wanted, this guard was bringing in for Jimmy. Guys, if you like that video, make sure to check out the full episode right here and subscribe to the channel right here.